All right, so here you have Angel Reese, Unapologetically Angel. This is her podcast. She does this pretty frequently. I'm not sure the schedule, but she had Dejanay Carrington, very good defender in the WNBA. She played for, I believe, Connecticut last year. I believe this year she's going to be on the Dallas Wings. I follow the WNBA slightly. My favorite team is Las Vegas Aces. Asia Wilson, that's my favorite player. So I follow the Aces. So I have an idea of some of the other players who are really good. And Dejanay Carrington, she's one of the ones who really made a name for herself, especially on the defensive end. She had some notable stops last year all throughout the season. She's normally given the opposing team's best scorer, and she has that defense responsibility. She holds her own for the most part. So yeah, that's just a little bit of background on her. Angel Reese, everybody knows Angel Reese, went to LSU, double machine. And, she just won Defensive Player of the Year in the Unrivaled League. This is the first season of the Unrivaled League. I really like the format of when the Unrivaled League did the one-on-one kind of tournament that they did. And then the winner ended up winning $200,000. So I really like that. I really like that concept. Really like how, they're highlighting different players from the women's game, especially with that one-on-one concept. I think that's really great. But we're going to get to it. They're going to be speaking about the CBA negotiations for the WNBA. And this first video is them speaking about it. Then I have a second video that we're going to watch. I don't believe the portion where they're speaking about is that long. So let me just make sure we got the right spot. We might get an ad here.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we got to face the consequences.
What?
Damn, we got to get it up.
Oh, we can go back just a little bit here.
Yeah, the CBA is coming up. I can't wait.
Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Of course.
Everybody.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we got to face the consequences.
What?
Damn, we got to get it up.
Y'all got to do
y'all.
something. Y'all got to do something.
But the women coming in, not this year, but next year. Because the ones coming in this year will still be on the rookie contract again.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that the year after, they're going to get more. They probably going to be making more than us.
No, they are.
I'm hurt.
They are. Yeah. I've been in the meetings. They are.
I need to get in the. I need to get in the field.
You need to come to the
I
meetings.
gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing they don't give us. If y'all don't give us what we want, we sit out.
That's a possibility for real.
Yeah.
It was kind of a possibility on the last one, but now I feel like just with the leverage that we have right now, and it's just a time that women's basketball is going crazy. They're really, it's gonna be a time next year.
Ooh,
so
I'm excited.
But we deserve it.
I'm excited. How was it to feel like you?
All right, so that's basically what they. Okay, we got the mic live. That's basically what they spoke about when they were going over the CBA, and basically how they feel like they deserve more. They just signed a pretty big media rights deal. I believe it's in the tune of about $2 billion. And the next video I have is going to break down really good how the WNBA does financially. I'll give my take after we watch this video about what I think will happen with the WNBA. This is a 12-minute video. I don't think we got to have it on Chipmunk Speed. This video is from Nate the lawyer. He covers the world of a bunch of different subjects. This is one of the subjects I think he covered really well. And he got it pretty concise into a shorter video. So that's a plus. I like when, I can find a lot of things that are concise and we can just kind of break it down and go from there. So this is Nate the lawyer, fair use for all the videos. The last clip that we watched, it was from the Unapologetically Angel podcast. That's Angel Reese's podcast. And then this one is from Nate the lawyer. So let's get this going.
In 2024, the WNBA is estimated to bring in $200 million in revenue. Just for comparison, the NBA is expected to earn $13 billion.
All right, so it is pretty slow. We're gonna get this. We're gonna speed this up just a tad bit. I don't think we need to go crazy, but we're gonna go 1.25 just to get the speed up a little bit. Then let's get back to it.
The WNBA has historically lost around $10 million per season. Some estimates have said that the league is going to lose about $50 million.
The WNBA attendance, not good. The WNBA ratings, not good. The WNBA salaries, not good. It's not working because you, the consumer, don't want it, and I'm never going to cover anything because I feel it's a movement.
That's taking away from what we should be talking about, which is equal pay. Here's the thing. This cannot be done. It is not on the oppressed to fix oppression. It has to be done with allyship, which is where someone like Draymond Green, a man, comes into a space that affects predominantly women. But the thing about being an ally is when you come into that space, you should be listening first, not talking first, because there is no one who understands better what these women are going through than these women. If you come into this space and say, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to take this feedback of what you've been living and what you've been experiencing, and then I'm going to then talk and then offer my ideas, perhaps even away from Twitter, because then it comes off like you're talking at somebody who's been going through something that's incredibly difficult for years and years and years. Then maybe we can get to the point where women aren't making 80 cents to every dollar that a man makes. And by the way, that's white women.
I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining.
They're not just complaining.
Huh?
They're not just complaining, really.
But they are, because they're not laying out steps that they can take to change that, because the people that can change it, they're just going to continue to say, well, the revenue isn't there.
Some new questions tonight about the future of the WNBA players' contracts after this.
All right, so we're going through this video. I think that was some key points right there. Basically, WNBA players are saying this, and everyone else is, just looking at the situation from just a strictly business standpoint. So I definitely understand it. Draymond Green, he has some good points there where he's saying, hey, lay out the steps so we can get you to what you actually want. Because otherwise, if you don't lay out steps, then basically they'll just keep treating you the same way. So I definitely understand that point there. Let's get back to the video.
Year's seasons and what will happen there, especially with one of the most popular players in the league now threatening the possibility of a strike. There's talks towards a collective bargaining agreement happening now between the Players Association and the league. And Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese says she wants in on those negotiations. Listen.
Beating the S&P on autopilot.
All right, so we got an ad right here.
You're going to want to check this out.
Anytime you see a YouTube ad, take the time to like the video. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel on whatever platform you're watching on.
We said no.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about the WNBA versus the NBA wage.
All right, so this is where Nate the lawyer is going to do a very good breakdown of this. He just played a very small portion of what we actually watched previously. We watched a couple minutes of it where they were specifically speaking on negotiations in the CBA. So now he's going to do a breakdown. This is more of the business side. So a lot of times people just say one thing, or they only talk about no revenue. And they say, oh, well, you can't get revenue if you're not doing, this, and this. But this is a very good breakdown. And then this is where you'll see they do have some leverage because the game is more widely viewed. But also you'll see here how they can use that leverage and what they can actually get. All right, so let's get it. Shout out to Nate the lawyer.
Gap. We're going to talk about what the wage gap is, how much money each league actually brings in, and the arguments for equal pay on both sides. And at the end of the video, you get to make the decision. Who do you believe has the best argument? All right, so before we start with the numbers, let's get into how the WNBA came to be.
In 1996, the NBA and its then commissioner David Stern launched a women's league, the WNBA. The men's league was going through a huge boom with Michael Jordan at the helm, and a women's league played in the summertime would provide a full year of basketball and would also help grow the sport internationally. The NBA and its owners would own the WNBA.
It survived because of the great support the NBA has given it over many years. So there's a reason why the WNBA is the longest tenured women's professional sports league in the country. Think about this, by double any other.
WNBA team owners received 50% stake in 2002. In 2022, the league raised $75 million from a group of investors, the league's first ever outside investment and the largest in women's sports history. They received 16% stake in return, leaving.
So this chart right here is very important. These numbers are going to keep coming into play as we watch the rest of this video. But just looking at the breakdown. So the NBA owns 42%. They've been investing into the league from the league's inception. The WNBA actually owns 42%. And then in 2022, the WNBA took $75 million investment for a 16% stake in the WNBA. I think that is going to be the sticking point. I think that is where we're going to see the issues arise with what the players are fighting for. But there is a silver lining to where things could get better for them. But let's keep going.
Only 42% left for WNBA and its owners. But this also means only 42% of national level revenue, like TV and sponsorship deals, trickles down to the WNBA owners. The remaining goes to the NBA and its owners, 5 of which are also WNBA owners, and the outside investor group. The current TV deal is worth about $60 million in 2024. Only about $2 million of that goes to each team.
Now, I know there were a lot of numbers thrown at you, but let's break this down pretty simple. All right, so to understand this issue, you have to understand how both the NBA and the WNBA distribute its money. Let's start with the NBA. For the NBA, you have the owners and you have the players, and they take 50% of basketball-related revenue. Now, in 2023, that revenue was $10.5 billion, and they've had an agreement since 1983 that they would share revenue 50-50. Now, our next step is to go to basketballreference.com. They list every NBA contract for the 2023-2024 season, and there were 496 contracts, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you just add up the money for the 2024-2025 season to see how much the players get paid, it should be around $5 billion, and I did the math, it's exactly $490,614. That's how much the NBA paid the players. So the NBA was simple, players and owners. But the WNBA gets really, really complicated. First, you have the WNBA players, they get a percentage. Then you have the WNBA owners, they also get a percentage. Along with that, you have the NBA owners who also get a percentage of WNBA revenue because they put in between $250 to $300 million to keep the league going this long. And you have the outside investment group who spent $75 million to get 16% of basketball-related revenue. So these are the people who must get paid by the WNBA if it ever generates any revenue. And this is how the percentages are broken down. The WNBA players and owners take 42% of basketball-related revenue. The NBA, who put in that $250 to $300 million, they get 42% of basketball-related revenue. And those investors who put in $75 million, they get 16% of basketball-related revenue. Now, if you split it out, it turns out that the players for the WNBA can only really get a max of 21% of basketball-related revenue. And remember, that's in contrast to the NBA players who get 50% of basketball-related revenue. So let's say the WNBA made $10 billion like the NBA. How would that look? Well, in that case, the players would get $2.1 billion. Now remember, the men were getting $5 billion, but the women would only get $2.1 billion. $3 billion less than the men because of how everyone has to be paid. The owners for the WNBA would get $2.1 billion. The NBA would get $4.2 billion, but that's because they invested almost a third of $1 billion into the league. And then that private investor group would also get $1.6 billion. So bottom line, in terms of percentage of revenue, the most the WNBA players can make is about 21 to 22%, while the NBA players make 50%. Now, this leads us into our first argument by WNBA players and their advocates that they should get about 50% of basketball-related revenue.
What's being lost in all that noise is the actual point. So let's unpack what the WNBA wage conversation is about. No, they don't want Steph Curry money. Well, they don't not want Steph Curry money, but that's just because Steph could pay the salary of every woman in the WNBA and still have enough left over to sign Le'Veon Bell. Anyone can make the argument that a younger, smaller, less popular league can't pay the same amount as the NBA. What's harder is
I don't know why Le'Veon Bell caught that straight right there. I'm not sure. I can't tell what time frame this is from, but dang, Le'Veon Bell caught a stray.
is arguing they can't pay the same percentage, which is what WNBA players are trying to tell you. They recognize the difference in how much money each league brings in, but they do want a higher percentage of their league's revenue. Remember, NBA players get about 50% of what the league calls basketball-related income. A Forbes report last year estimated that WNBA players only get about 25% of BRI.
Well, Rachel, 25% is actually saying it too nice. It's actually closer to around 22%.
Yeah, like, and the big conversation about WNBA salaries and all that's been going on. What is, like, your, from a player and from players in general, like your teammates, what is that opinion and how do you guys handle all those conversations?
We're not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's a huge misconception.
It's a huge misconception.
For sure. Because every video is like, oh, this person gets paid this person gets paid that, right?
So I want to be really clear about that. Like, I don't think I should get paid the same as LeBron.
Right.
But the percentage of revenue. Like,
and now you know why the WNBA can't get.
So now that we saw that background information, it's going to be really hard for them to get that same revenue split of 50%, only because they have more hands in the pot than the NBA has in their pot. So that's a quick breakdown, but I like Nate the lawyer, so we're going to finish up this video.
As the men, which is 50%, because all of these stakeholders are involved. It's not just the players and the owners. It's the players, the owners, the NBA investors who put $250 to $300 million into the league, and the outside investors who pumped in $75 million to the league. All those people get a cut of the revenue. And as you can clearly see, the argument for a larger percentage of revenue is one that is ignorant at best, because based on the way the league is set up, the most they can get is 21%, unless the owners or the NBA or those outside investors give up some of their equity. Now, one thing you will not hear a lot is that the WNBA has never turned a profit. It's always had a deficit. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me define some terms for you. First, I'm talking about revenue. Now, revenue is the amount of money a business generates. Then you have expenses, the cost incurred to run that business, rent, salaries, hiring people, that type of stuff. Then you have profit, which is essentially your revenue, the money you brought in, minus their expenses, the money you had to spend to generate that revenue. Now, if expenses are higher than revenue, you have a deficit. If revenue is higher than expenses, then you have profit. So this chart shows you the 2023 finances for the NBA and the WNBA side by side. As you can see here at the top, the NBA generated $10.58 billion in revenue, while the women's game only generated $200 million in revenue. But But when you take into account expenses for the women's game, that revenue number actually drops to $40 million in the hole. In 2023, the female game lost $40 million. And remember, this was the WNBA's best season ever, and they still lost $40 million. Now, to be absolutely fair, they were projected to lose $50 million, so $40 million is actually a win. Now, on the plus side, WNBA just signed a new TV rights deal for $2.2 billion over 11 years, so it comes out to about $200 million a year.
The WNBA reportedly securing a new round of media rights deals with NBC, Amazon, and Disney, the parent company of ABC, worth about $2.2 billion over 11 years, about $200 million a year. This new media package, a massive increase, 6 times bigger than its previous deal.
Now, with this $200 million a year, it should allow the WNBA to be profitable for the first time in its history. So out of that $200 million TV deal, the players are going to see about $42 million of that money. The owners get another $42 million, the NBA gets its $84 million, and the investors get their $32 million, and that's each year. Now, think about this. The WNBA players right now only get about $16 million a year in salaries combined. All WNBA salaries, when you add them all up, comes out to about $16 million. So now they're going to have another $42 million on top of that they can dole out to the players. So based on the numbers and the structure of the league, the WNBA players should be able to get more money with this next round of collective bargaining. Now, they won't be able to get the same percentage of revenue as the men are getting because, again, the structure of the league, but they are well on their way to getting more money. As always, tell me where I'm wrong.
All right, so I'm just going to leave that there. This is the breakdown, and this is why I don't believe they'll be able to get that 50% revenue share or revenue split that they're actually looking for. But I do think there's some silver lining with their total salaries coming up to about $16 million, with them having a potential influx of $42 million a year for the next 11 years. I believe that they should be able to give max players more money. They should be able to that should trickle down to, that's about a little over 2.5 times what they currently pay their. Oh no, yeah, I messed that way up. All right, so she signed a 2-year extension, guaranteed. It was $400 million. 400,000. Me and these numbers beating me up right now, y'all. So she signed a max salary. It was 400,000 for a 2-year contract extension. And the final year of that is in 2025. So she should be able to see some of that salary increase that they should be looking for the 2026 season. But I remember when she signed this deal, she was one of the highest paid players. And I believe another one of the highest paid players was Breanna Stewart. And I believe, yeah, and her salary is pretty similar. So $205,000. So right about that $200,000 range is looking like it's going to be the max for the top players. That should significantly increase after the 2026 season, or after when the 2026 season starts. So I think that is a silver lining. I don't think they're going to get that 50% revenue split, but they definitely have some money on the table that will be available to them. Now in hindsight, it's looking like that investment they got from those outside investors giving up 16% for that $75 million, that looked like a very bad investment. But at the time, they just didn't have the leverage. And one thing you will see across just all industries, when you are signing deals and you don't have the leverage, you just don't get the favor of the deal. So it seems like that deal wasn't even where they were going to just pay back the money that they took, the $75 million. This is just I'm guessing here at this point, it seems like they just sold the ownership for that amount of that 16%. So if that's the case, looking at these numbers, with this influx of $200 million per season, the next 11 years, it's only going to take less than 2.5 years into this new deal for the investors to get their money back, and then they'll be in the green. So it's looking like a great investment for them. So that's my take there. So the silver lining is, or the wrap up is, they do have a silver lining with an influx of money based on the new deals they signed. They should get more money. I just don't know if they are hard set on trying to get to that 50% revenue split. I don't think they're going to get there just because it's not available based on the makeup of how the money is divided.